Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for taking time in a few minutes just to tune right on in. I'm Dr. Ray Johnson. I'm your host for tonight, and we thank you for the opportunity to join in. Make sure you share this as soon as you see it. Grab as many people in as you can. What you hear, playing in the background, I should say, is Israel Houghton's Sunday kind of started with when we just began to join in and when we first came together when we got married with each other. So listen, it's once again second time around. Begin again, as I say. Much needed conversation of necessary endings, but also new beginnings. And so, as we take that opportunity, honey, we've been having the dialogue and the conversation for many, many, I guess, moons now. Not that we've gotten everything perfect, but what we've learned along the way, we've decided to share with each of you. God bless you, Sister Erica. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Make sure that you share this. Tonight's going to be a very, very good and interesting show as we take a few minutes just to kind of welcome everybody in. And like I was saying, not that we've gotten everything together, but we've learned a few things along the way. And those few things we endeavor to try to share with those of us that we shepherd and those of us that are connected with us in the walk of dominion and watch us all on social media and all the different platforms. And so I happen to be an author, educator, and leadership development coach. Honey, why don't you tell them who you are?
I'm a worshiper.
Okay.
I'm a writer and I'm a woman in love with this.
Worshiper, writer, and woman in love with this man. When we started this, God bless you, Sister Sheila. Thank you. God bless you, Sister Lisa Moore Bailey. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We started this process with developing something called the acid test and looking at the toxicity levels. And what determines that is the pH balance when you're looking at what the toxicity levels are. But that pH balance for us stands for personal happiness. Right. And so what we've decided to do is to look at how can we help people be engaged with each other in terms of personal happiness, in terms of their connectivity. There's no sense in doing this if you're not going to have a sense of personal happiness that kind of comes in and helps you work toward that place of wholeness and that place of coming together. And
let me just say that sometimes that pH can be psychological health too, because that sometimes your happiness is related to what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your soul around that mind, that will, and that emotions. And so, yes, pH, I love the personal happiness. Sometimes I think also it can be that psychological health that we need to look at.
Absolutely. The psychological health, as well as the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and some that we're going to discuss tonight in terms of the financial health as well. And so we kind of come up with this chart of the toxicity levels and whether or not something is acid or basic. 0 to, I believe it's 7.1. That would be the basic levels, which would mean that it would be really, really toxic, the higher or the lower on the end of the pole that you get. And then those are at 7.4 on up to 14. That would be the basic level or normal. And when you kind of get a look at where you are, that should determine whether or not you enter in to a second time or next time around relationship again. But I brought something tonight that I want to take a few minutes to actually discuss with us from this standpoint. When you look at this right here, before you get married, parts of a conversation that you need to have. And so many times, second time or next time around, couples come together and they have not had a discuss bills, parenting styles, credit, debt, religion, how to deal with family, what beliefs will be installed in your children, childhood traumas, sexual expectations, partner expectations, financial expectations, family health history, mental health history, bucket lists, dream homes, careers, education, political views, and whatever else comes to mind are things that you need to make sure that you have a moment to talk about before you enter into a second time or next time around relationship. And honey, what I found is a lot of times people enter in without first having the discussion.
Right.
So I brought something tonight that's a little different in terms of discussion, because in many times, second time and next time around couples are engaged in a relationship with each other. And like for us, many families may mirror ours. Our children range from 13 with the baby boy all the way up to 26 with my oldest girl, and then two more bonus children, 31 and 28. And so a lot of times this particular clip really doesn't apply that much to girls, but it does to boys. But when boys begin to come of age, it's important that they have the conversation. So y'all just let me see if I can do it this way.
Mama, are you approachable? Go ahead. As you know, I'll be turning 18 next week, and there will be some changes in this house. My curfew is no longer 10 p.m. It's 2 a.m. I will no longer be responsible for your other two sons when you're not here. I am grown and responsible
again to make sure that we get it in right.
Mama, are you approachable? Go ahead. As you know, I'll be turning 18 next week, and there will be some changes in this house. My curfew is no longer 10 p.m. It's 2 a.m. I will no longer be responsible for your other two sons when you're not here. I am grown and responsible for myself. I will no longer ask you to go places. I will just be telling you. If you have an issue with me, you can no longer put your hands on me because it then will be considered assault. Is that all? Yep. Well, then I too will be making some changes. Since you will be an adult, you are now responsible for getting yourself to and from school. I don't give rides to adults. Also, I cook for children, not adults. You'll need to get a job. I'll need rent money and light bill money. As for your curfew, you will not be able to gain access to my home after 10 p.m. Me and my children will be sleeping. Where you went is where you will stay. As for me putting my hands on you, as an adult, I will now throw hands with you. And because I am a petty mother, I'll call the cops after and tell them a grown-ass man just put his hands on me. Sounds good? We have a deal?
When I tell you right there, sounds good. Do we have a deal? Because a lot of times boys become of age, the bravado in them, all of a sudden they hit age 18, they think they're grown, and now they can be able to do whatever they want to do, how they want to do, the way they want to do, when they want to do. But what I found was interesting about that in terms of tonight's topic is expectations. The idea in his mind is that the expectation is I don't have to necessarily drive my siblings around. I ain't got to do what you say, and I ain't got to come into the house at a particular time because I'm grown, and I won't be asking you where I'm going. I'm going to be telling you. Then the mom has a whole nother set of expectations, and when she brought him into that dose of reality, everything seemed to shift and seemed to change. So here's what's interesting about this is that the difference, or I should say the chasm, if you will, between expectations and discussion about expectations, the distance between those leads to disappointment.
Right. And now, and because I saw this clip earlier today, it was kind of funny because it popped up on Facebook. So probably quite a few people saw it today. Now, there is a level of release that we do have to give our young men.
Sure.
There is, because they're fighting that they're wanting to be a man and still fighting that boyish kind of childhood mentality.
Right.
And so there is some leeway that we give them, but we don't give them, the whole kit and caboodle.
They think they got the whole kit and caboodle, which is the difference. There's got to
be some balance there, right?
Which is that distance between expectations and discussion leads to disappointment. And so it is with second time or next time around relationships. And so tonight, I thought it would be important for us to have a discussion about expectations. And again, we've already taken time to actually look at what's important in terms of things that you've got to discuss before you enter into a second time or next time around relationship. So tonight, we're going to have the discussion about expectations in these three areas: sexual expectations, partner expectations, financial expectations. Those are conversations that you've got to be able to have. So we'll start with the first one tonight, and we'll call it relations. Okay, relations for those who may have an audience. Family-friendly show on tonight. So relations. So when we talk about it, I got a couple of F's tonight. I'm going to start with the very first one, frequency.
Okay.
You've got to have a conversation about how often you're going to engage in frequency. That's the what area. And I need all of the men to just come closer to the screen. Just listen to me. You 20 years old, you already at your relations peak. When you start to get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, a little bit. When she's 25 and 30, children are being born, hormones and things are kind of gone awry, up one down the next. But when the kids get grown and she get into them 40s and 50s, that frequency level, you got to have a conversation about that. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in some unhappy places, which leads to another F of frustration. So, I mean, why do you think that frequency is part of a discussion that people need to have in regards to relationships?
Because when you're first attracted to one another, you're first coming together. Your mindset is that we're gonna be just together and just intimate as
it's gonna be relations all the time.
Right, and that's because there's that reality hasn't really sunk in yet, that there's kids and bills and jobs.
Slow down. Do them again. bills,
kids, job, responsibilities, and ministry is a whole nother level of responsibility.
Let's call that business, because some people is ministries, others is business.
But when you're in that exciting in love and honeymoon phase, you feel like this is how it's always going to be. But the reality is you're going to have to live day to day. And the other reality is you're going to be tired sometimes.
That's right.
And after going through a whole long day of just dealing with people and personalities, you don't always have the energy at that night. But what I can suggest, I remember hearing this?
Go ahead.
What I can suggest is, if you can make love to a woman's mind all throughout the day and contact her and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Hey, you're beautiful to me. You're the most beautiful person I know.
Watch the smile on my face.
As you're doing that, you are winning her, because it's the words. You're washing with the words and you're drawing her in, so that when she comes and sees you, she's like, hey, baby, how you doing? What you up to?
You said that lioness come out there. That lioness
a whole different person come out when you're constantly in contact. Everything isn't about money and gifts. Sometimes it's just about what you say. Women, when you give that respect to the man and you're winning his confidence, it says the heart of the husband does safely trust in her. When he can trust in the woman, can find that safe place, you're going to find a whole different person, a whole different man.
Yes, I'm trying to tell you, I think she hit the nail right on the head. And so we're going to be answering your questions tonight. So put your questions inside of the chat. You've got to have a discussion about frequency, because you've got to have a realistic look at what your life is going to be like in terms of what you like. Are you a 2 days a week, 3 days a week? Are you 4 days a week? How many times are you engaged and involved in it? What's going on with your body physiologically? Have some discussions about that. That's critically important. And listen, they've got medicine, brothers, that can help you deal with that. But make sure you keep out a regular workout routine. I mean, I really could turn this into a show to help some dudes out. In terms of just having the conversation. I'm just saying it's too much information out here today for you to be in a space where you are not providing pleasure for your spouse and receiving some yourself. You got to make sure you have that discussion. Let me say this to the women,
because sometimes we lose a little bit of confidence, especially as we get older, or maybe we've gained some weight and we put on pounds of weight. Your confidence is your sexuality.
Come on.
How confident you are when you go into that bedroom, that is your sexuality. That's your sexiness. Don't lose your confidence. If that man says he loves you, he really does love you. Not just for what you look like, although we want to keep ourselves up. We want to present a good package. Amen. We want to present ourselves well. But if he loves you, he loves you. And he means it when he says it.
Yeah, Brooke, I had to use the term relations because we got to make sure it's a family-friendly show. We're streaming on ministry platforms and business platforms. We're going to create another platform where we can really get down and have some conversations about it. Make sure you put your questions. This is Hot Topics. Let me move on to the next F, which has got to be fatigue. And we've already talked about this sometimes to the degree... to the degree that you've got a lot happening and a lot going on, that is going to determine and impact the frequency. So you've got to have the conversation about fatigue, about what's happening in the day, how many different projects are happening. I know for her, she does a lot of running around with the kids. Me, I had that mindset, y'all will be all right. But listen, because you can't nothing block your flow. So what I'm saying is make sure that you have conversations about this. And here's the most important one I think is really important when it comes down to relations, and that is fidelity. I know we live in a different age and a different time. And the whole concept and idea of inviting others into the bedroom and into the intimate moments has now become something that is normalized. But that's not God's way. It's always one man and one woman. And you've even got to be careful about inviting the pornographic material in, because that can become something that's addictive. And now, naturally, come on, let's not over spiritualize this. Now you comparing yourself with the guy on the screen, not realizing he work out 6 times a day, or comparing who you're with to somebody that you're watching on the screen, which is unrealistic. Come on.
Let me tell you the damage of pornography, having lived through it. It is actually a form of adultery.
It is. And idolatry.
And
but go
it causes the woman, especially on the man's part. I'm not really engaged because women can be addicted to pornography just like a man can. But
say that one more again for the people in the back.
Women can be addicted to pornography just like a man can.
Yes.
But when you discover that your partner is wrapped into this, I think I discovered like credit card bills and things. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, no,
now you got to clarify that, because you got to make sure that.
Oh, no, not you. Clarification. Not Ray, Ray Johnson.
Right.
But when you discover it, when a woman discovers that her significant other is engaging in pornography, it's immediately it's hurtful and it's damaging. And then the woman starts to doubt herself. Am I not enough? That's the first question you ask. Am I not enough for this man? Am I not? Why is he locked in? And why won't he? Then it becomes the man spends more time with the pornography than with the woman in bed. And that's another hurtful kind of situation for a woman to walk through. So it can go both ways. But having seen witnessed this and experienced it, that the psychological damage that it does to a woman's mind and to her psyche and to her confidence, that will diminish your confidence as a woman to have someone who is seeking other avenues of pleasure or attention.
Right. And so remember, to capstone just this first section, we're having discussions that need to take place and need to happen in regards to relationships, in terms of relations, if you will.
Right.
You've got to make sure that you discuss expectations so that there isn't that distance, that chasm that creates disappointment. And it's critically important to have a discussion about fidelity.
Something else I've got to say about the pornography
and frequency. All right, come on.
And I'm sorry.
Do it.
But images, men are visual.
Yes.
And when you see, and women too, we can be visual as well. But when you see images, they play in your mind.
Yeah.
And they can come back up over and over again. After a while, those images become normal. It's normalized. And so it's normal for you to step outside of the marriage and go seek a part-time relationship. It becomes normal, almost acceptable, because in your mind, you've rehearsed it over and over and over again. That's why you have to be careful about what you watch and what you hear, because those things will speak into the marriage.
I see a question up here tonight in regards to how do you discuss the topic of self-pleasure, trying to keep the comment PG, but how do you discuss self-pleasure? Listen, I know we went through that season in the early 90s, maybe to mid 90s, while Juanita Bynum was talking about, girl, get in the tub, light you some candles and do all that kind of stuff. And so really,
I'm sorry.
That's just how long I've been around. I can just say it that way. Listen, any kind of self-pleasuring of yourself is still idolatrous, because you are set aside for the person that God has for you. And so, and I know it's difficult, and I know it's tough, and I know it's hard. This is male and female, because both men try to self-pleasure and women try to self-pleasure. What you're doing is you're stepping outside of the confines whereby which God has given you license for sexual relationship. And that is through matrimony with your significant other. Now, I know that's hard to receive and hard to hear in this culture and seems outdated, antiquated, and impractical. But I'm talking to you tonight about how to make sure that there's not a disappointment between you and God. Because oftentimes what you'll find is that there is a disappointment that takes place because now the Holy Spirit begins to remind you of the offense that you've had with him. But remember, we are not our own. We have been bought with a price.
Right.
And so because of that, we belong to the Lord. That's why it's critically important. I love that. Keep those comments in.
We present our bodies as a living sacrifice.
Right.
And we die daily.
Right.
And sometimes that decision to say, no, I'm not going to do this is you dying to self-pleasure.
Right.
And say, I'm going to wait for the covenant relationship. I'm going to wait for the proper context for this.
You got to be doing it now, which is to say, you may have to look at some things you can't watch on television. While you're in the dating places, dating moments, you may have to look at, listen, we need to keep a public atmosphere around here, all the Netflix and chill and Hulu with who and all of that. Listen, you gotta pull that in. And if you can't handle all that, you don't need to get the engine started. You don't need to get the engine started, because all it's going to do is lead to more difficulty with you, your spouse, and your significant other.
And the thing about it, it only takes a little bit of tainting before you're somewhere all the way, even as when you're steering a ship and you're steering it, and they tell you if you're off just a little bit of a degree, by the time you get to the desired destination, you're miles and miles away from it. But sometimes it's the little things, the little foxes that destroy the vine, and you don't want to destroy the purity of what God called the sexual relationship to be. And sometimes when we engage in things that are premature, or we engage in things that are not that are not necessarily holy, what it does to our minds and what it does to our relationship is that we start to kind of veer off of the holiness. I wish above all things, that you be whole in your mind and your body.
Right.
But that wholeness that you're seeking, you're not seeking it naturally, but seeking it artificially. And it starts to play on your psychology when you are with a man. That, can I really be pleased by a man?
Right.
Can I have the real conversation
you are in it now.
with a man? This is how I like to be pleased. This is how I like to be touched. Is that too much?
No, that ain't too much. But I'm saying you're going all the way in there. I mean, we got some other topics we got to get to. But no, we need to stay right in here because what's important about that is there's all this pressure. When you look at the different social media feeds, all the way from TikTok through Twitter, and Snapchat and others, everybody's given this advice on this area of sex and relationships. And many of these people that are giving this advice don't necessarily have successful ones themselves. So I don't know why in the world we spend all our time listening to what they have to say. But sometimes you may need a season of abstinence and a season of celibacy so that you can detox and get out of your spirit all of the other encounters that you've had, because what we may not understand is that sex is first spiritual. What my wife said, she said, ministering to my mind throughout the day is what then begins to help me internalize in connection with my husband later on that evening. It is so important to do that. So a season of detox so that you can get everybody else, you can get Tina and Rashida and everybody else out of your mind and get Tyrone and Tim and all of them out of your mind so that
sorry, 90s.
see, so that you can pull it in and come together. That's important. Listen, we're having a conversation tonight about things you've got to discuss before you get married. All of these need to be a part of the conversation. And we're tonight talking about sexual expectations. I want to move to the second one tonight and to talk a little bit about partner expectations and what that actually means, partnership expectations. And when I say partnerships, what I mean is you got to have a discussion about roles. What is your role going to be? What is your spouse's role going to be? Who's going to be the disciplinarian? Who's going to be the mercy person? Who's going to be the provider? Who's going to be the sustainer? Who's going to be the connection person? Who's going to be the consecration person? You see what I mean? So what I'm saying is a discussion about roles is critically important, because if you don't have the discussion, and listen, I just got to go here early because we're going to get to finances in a minute, but role discussion is way much more than finances. It encompasses the totality of the connection of the relationship of what causes you all as a couple, as one, to function. I'll say that again. What causes you all holistically as a couple to function? So if everybody can get comfortable, the best analogy I can give is, I played sports, basketball, high school and college. And a guy was asking me the other day, he said, you got those shoulders, you must play a little football. I looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, here I am, 5'10", 5'11" on a good day with my sneakers on. And you thinking I'm playing football? No. He's like, what did you play in basketball? I said, I ain't big enough to play but one position, point guard. That's my role. I'm the distributor of the ball. I get the ball to other people. And when the game is on the line, I'm the leader. I take the shot. That's what I do. I ain't going to give you 30, but I'm going to give you 10, 5, and 6 every game. I know what my role is. Okay. What happens in relationships is people sometimes, because they're trying to live up to somebody else's expectation or live up to their friend's expectation, they forget their role. And if people do not understand their role in the relationship, and watch this, what your role was in another relationship may not be your role in this one. So you've got to have the discussion. Go ahead.
I think sometimes the roles can transition throughout the lifespan of the relationship.
They can go back and forth. Yes.
They can go back and forth. Yeah. I don't think it's set in stone. I think they can sometimes transition because as you grow, things change, and change is inevitable. And so you kind of have to go with you grow with the change. Yeah. But if we resist it, say, well, you can't do that because you're a female, and you can't do this because you're a man. Right. I think we get caught up and we lose the respect for one another and say, hey, this is the season we're in right now. Right. Let's find out how we can work this together.
Right. Right. Absolutely. People are jumping in on the sex conversation. How about toys in the bedroom? That's a discussion. Remember, this is about A lack of discussion about expectations is a recipe for disappointment. You've got to have the discussion. So if toys work well between you and your spouse, then that's fine. If not, don't be trying to bring in no surprises on nobody. My goodness, go ahead.
You can't force a toy, but if that's something that is comfortable for the two of you,
right,
then that's acceptable. That's the marriage bed. It says the marriage bed is undefiled.
Right.
It's not out of order. The marriage bed is not. So if that's something that is enjoyable to the two of you, then that's one thing. But if it's something that you're trying to force on another, or holding out because the other person is not participating in what you want to do, then that's a problem because you want unity.
Yes.
That's the goal.
That's
the goal is always unity.
That's good.
Can we be in agreement about what we're going to do? Absolutely.
So, and moving into the next one, somebody else asked the question, is this going to be available for replay? Absolutely. It will be available on all our platforms for replay, I need to say, as people are tuning in. Second area that's got to be a discussion on responsibilities. That ties in with roles, and they will be interchangeable. This is important. I know men, we get so focused up on being providers. That's a part of our nature. That's a part of the way God made us And when we're not providing, we can feel some kind of way. So I'm an older guy. I got gray hair. I'm not a millennial. Okay. I believe in footing the bill and covering and taking care of your woman. But there may be seasons where when you're young, that she may have to carry you financially a little bit, and that's okay. So you got to be strong in other areas in terms of rearing children, spending more time with children, and that sort of thing. When you get into the midlife point of life, you may have moments where one of the two of you may have experienced a setback on your job where you're not making as much money or you're unemployed. You've got to find other ways to actually be a part of being responsible in the partnership of relationships. So it's really can go back and forth. The key is have the discussion.
Right. Talk about it.
Most people enter in and don't have the discussion, which then creates the disappointment.
And it creates resentment.
Oh,
it creates a whole lot of resentment.
Right.
Because it wasn't discussed. And
right.
You wake up, you were talking about expectations.
Yes.
And you wake up and say, I wasn't expecting this. This is not what I signed up for.
Right.
And then that whole process of derailing and,
you
enter into that derailing. Yeah, I'm going back to acid test. You start derailing. And it's like, I'm not doing this.
Right. And then all of a sudden now you ended up, because you didn't have the discussion and set what the standards and expectations were, now you found yourself into some trouble. Come on, number 3 about partnership, realities. You've got to discuss the realities, what you can and cannot do. And look here, next time around relationships, be honest, what you will and what you will not do. And so you've got to have the conversation. I think it's just critically important. And now everybody wants to get to the main one. Let's check in on our chat feed tonight as people are jumping in right now on tonight. My friend brother, what's up, Hugh? He thought we were gathering together on Tuesday. Sorry, I missed it. No, we're still rolling. Other things are still happening. Make sure you put your comments in. I'm looking for more and more questions. Yeah. Organic.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Pinky Snell. I like that.
Oh, that's my daughter right there, Erin.
I like that.
That's the center on my basketball team.
She says, I feel that those type of roles become organic.
Yes.
They kind of develop. I like that. That's the best way to put it because we're living organisms.
Yeah.
And so you kind of form into those roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Grow with the change. Yes. Also, it's hard when you have done it before. Yes. Right. For women. Yes. Sister Teresa Harris. Yes. Because when you've been independent for a while, it's hard to partner because you've carried the load, you've borne that weight.
Yeah.
And so some of our struggle has been when he comes in and tries to do stuff, I'm like, I don't need you to do that.
Right.
I can handle this. Right. I've got this. And just to
allow. You gonna tell the truth and shame the devil?
I'm gonna tell the truth because I'm still a little hot about the whole cut the grass thing. But he wouldn't let me cut the grass.
I would not let him do it. No.
It's fine. But the whole roles thing. And when you're used to doing it and you're used to bearing the weight of the responsibility, it's sometimes difficult to change. Yeah. And I had to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to calm my spirit down because sometimes I'm like, I don't need you to do this. Right. I got this. Right. Okay. I can handle this on my own. Yeah. And I have to kind of back down. Not that I can't handle it. I can. But to allow him the opportunity to provide in that way or provide in that area.
See, I think part of this discussion about expectations and roles in terms of responsibilities and dealing with realities. Now let's just go on all the way in there. Since you used the grass example, I would let her cut the grass the other day and that sort of thing. Especially we got an 18-year-old around here, and so me at 52 and then him at 18, no, he gonna be out there cutting the grass, not you. My knees, my ankles bad, her knees bad. We don't need to be out there messing with no grass.
There's a certain way I like for the grass to look.
But here is the you off the chain. Here is the important part about this. Men, ladies, I'm gonna just blow y'all's cover for a minute. This whole strong black women thing, I'm a strong black woman and all this stuff, all of that. At the end of the day, fellas, let me tell you, the reality is they not trying to be strong at home. If they are a professional woman, career-oriented woman, businesswoman, they got to chop heads and do all that all day. When they come home, they want to be a woman and looking for a man to lead. And so all of that extra tiredness and all of the extra crazy stuff, don't let the smooth taste fool you. Ladies, come up off of that and be like, no, I need somebody to come on to deal with these kids, deal with these bills, help around, clean around the house, get some stuff done around here, because I need to make sure I get into a place where I'm able to relax. Leslie, don't laugh at me. You know I'm telling the truth. All right, come on. We got to get to this last one because the time is gone.
Oh, okay.
Lord have mercy. Time is gone. All right, look here. Let's go to this last area of discussion that we've got to have a discussion and talk about, and that is finance. Mm-hmm. When I say finance, what I mean is cash access, your access to cash or payroll, the things that can be liquidated that you use monthly. You got to talk about what you're bringing in every month, okay? And whether or not the accounts are joint or whether they're separate, you have to have the discussion of what can be taken care of and what can be done.
Right.
And I mean, I could just go on with that. Go ahead. You jump in.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because people don't, well, I don't want them to know how much I make it, how much I do it, how much I handle it. No, you got to have the discussion. And then you can have a moment of division of labor. If you got mortgage and this, then somebody else got utilities and this, or you may go through the season where I may not be able to help out that much right now. I just lost my job. You've got to have the conversation. You cannot be afraid to do it. And I think our culture has limited us and got us looking at each other with one eye open and one eye closed in this area. No, just discuss the expectations.
Because, the first thing we said was, you're not going to use me. I'm not going to let you use me, And then sometimes the men feel, well, what are you, a gold digger? What? You don't want to work. You don't want to do, we have.
She give me money. I'm sorry. I just went to Kanye. My bad.
With the cash access and with payroll, I heard one teaching about joint bank accounts. If you don't have anything joint, they say eventually that there's going to be a divorce anyway.
Right.
But because the two people are independently spending their money, independently making decisions, and they're not coming together.
Right.
Now, if one person manages the funds better than the other, why not allow them to manage the finances of the household?
Right.
But that has to be an agreement with what we're going to do.
Right. That's good.
There's got to be a coming together where we say, this is how we're going to set some things aside. Now, it's wisdom to be able to live off of 80%. It's wisdom. And to have other one to save 10%, to tithe 10%. That's wisdom. Because you've got that assurance when you tithe that God is rebuking the devourer on your behalf.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And if you're in a position where you can't afford to tithe, start somewhere.
Yeah.
You've got to start giving somewhere. Honor the Lord with your increase. Start somewhere and come into agreement with your spouse. Hey, this is what we want to do. We want to set some funds aside so that we can bless God with it and bless the house of God.
I hear people. I can hear people's thoughts tonight. Well, Creflo just came out and said, I'm under grace and I ain't got a tithe and all that. Come on, tithing precedes the Mosaic law. Stop it.
God has given us grace.
He has given us grace.
Extended grace. And so it ought to not even be a laborious point.
The issue is the condition of your heart. What did Jesus say? Where your heart is, there your treasure is also. And so God loves a cheerful giver in 1 Corinthians 9. Look, y'all are not talking to people tonight who are not credentialed and accomplished in this area. She ain't going to say it, but she is the chief of finance on her job. Well, she's the assistant chief. Y'all know the assistants pretty much run everything. She's accountant by trade.
No, my boss. Look here.
No, I just need the people need to know that you are an accomplished financial person that can do accounting and details, dot I's, cross T's well. And y'all know I'm a theologian, credentialed, doctoral, all of that. So now make sure you have the conversation. And when she's talking to you about saving 10, tithing 10, living underneath the 80, That is sound wisdom. It will help keep all of you out of the poorhouse. I got to go to this next one.
But then look for, I know it is, but look for alternative streams of income.
Yes.
Because you cannot just, in this day and age, it's not
just make it on
one source of income that we rely on. We've got to be able to find other alternatives. And the thing is, God
our producers are going to get us because we just way over time. Go ahead.
But God gives us gifts and callings that are without repentance. And sometimes we don't recognize or have confidence in what God has already placed on the inside of us that he wants to use to be a blessing to others and can also be a source of income for us. Don't be afraid to step out on your gift, and don't be afraid to step out of the boat. What if that job is not meeting the needs that, even psychologically, emotionally? I'm not saying jump ship immediately, but find something that does.
Don't you quit your job and go try to be an entrepreneur. You stay on that job first, and then you work your side hustle on the side and your gift until your gift is able to sustain you.
Yes, absolutely.
We got to say that because somebody said, well, the pastor said I can quit. No, I did not. That's a la.
Everything with wisdom.
Right.
Everything with wisdom.
Right.
But don't be afraid to step out.
Let's go here. We got to do this one. We talked about it already a little bit. Credit report, process, and perceptions. Process is what she already gave you about saving 10, tithing 10, living on the 80. Perceptions, just because someone may have a 6-figure job, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a saving and stewardship person. Right. They could be spending all of that 6 figures. So you've got to have a discussion about what the saving looks like and what are your goals? Where do you want to be, especially at this age, 40, 50, 60. We don't got time. You don't got a lot of time because the work world is going to be over for you in a minute. So you've got to have the discussion about process, about perceptions, about what works, about what doesn't work, all of that. Let me get into this next one. Listen, concepts of living. What's your investment strategy and wealth building? Maybe the side hustle is the wealth building for you, and maybe the investment strategy includes part of the tithe or the 10th. So you've got to have the big thing we want to lay out before you tonight is that you've got to have a discussion so that you can shorten that distance between expectations and realities, and you can do away with disappointments. That's really what we're trying to make sure we drive home in all of these different topic areas. I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time. Discuss these areas before you come in so that you can guarantee that this next time is the last time and that you're able to move into some places of personal happiness.
To the reality?
Go ahead.
Because there's some issues that come up after you marry.
Right.
So be open for the discussions to continue and to develop even further. Because you can start off talking about, the two of you can have a great idea of entrepreneurship, but how can you get it done together? The idea about wealth building is you're not spending the wealth that you make.
Right.
You're spending the only 80%, and the wealth is truly building wealth. But if you're always spending what your wealth is, you're not really making any money. You're not becoming a millionaire. You're not becoming financially sound because you're spending everything. And sometimes when you look and you see people with the nice cars and nice homes, that doesn't mean that they have a wealth plan or a spending plan. But find a resource. I don't care if it's a YouTube video, but start watching videos. There should be something that's speaking to how to save your money, how to grow your money every day, or at least once a week. Find something that speaks to how can I do my finances better? How can we make this better? There's all kinds of ideas and everything. Don't be closed-minded on how to grow your wealth. Seek for people who are already, success leaves clues is what they say. Success leaves clues. Find someone who is doing what you want to do. Get on board and start learning.
Absolutely.
Is that all right to say?
That's good. Let's check in with our chat tonight.
Yes.
My good friend Leslie says, I've been single. I'm 52, never been married. She believes in one account. Let me just shameless plug for her. That's a wonderful woman right there, brothers. You need to check her out. That's a godly woman.
Amen.
All right. My man Rick Harris, what's up, Rick? And then Teresa was in with us tonight. Sanita in with us tonight. I think most people put their questions and things in. Good, James. Glad you tuned in tonight. Darnell, what's up, my dude? Glad you tuned in tonight. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We way over time.
Oh, wow.
And so our production stuff, this is probably have to be a split show that they'll have to do when we send this in and get that out. Y'all look for us soon We're going to be coming out on another broadcast. I won't give it away quite yet, but stay in with us as we look to gather in and making sure that we always remember you can always begin again. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share this. We'll see you. God bless you. Bye-bye.